Hello, I am Ramanujam. I teach English in India and I am a teacher trainer as well. Teaching changes lives. I have experienced it often enough in my 3-decade-long career. And my diaries of several entries of teaching making a difference both in the lives of my students and in my own life as a teacher. I would like to share with you just one of them, which was a formative experience in my career. It was the very first year of my teaching. With the benefit of hindsight, I can now say that my teaching was not very sensitive to learner differences at the time. But in spite of this insensitivity, I was quite a popular teacher, and this, I think, kept me rather complacent. Then one day, something happened which opened my eyes. I overheard a conversation between two of my students. They were talking about different teachers. So the talk turned to my own teaching. One of them said, "Mr. Ramanujam is an excellent teacher, but you are too stupid to understand him." I was shocked. The idea that in the classroom I was making impressive noises in English which made little sense to some of my students was unbearable to me. I decided to explore ways of making my teaching more useful to my students. I prepared an action plan for this purpose. With each passing day, I found myself developing more ideas in order to be more responsive to my students' needs. I also developed mechanisms for finding out whether my action plan was working in the classroom. I was being investigative and exploratory. Soon enough, I found my action plan paying off. My students no longer stood in awe of me, admiring me from a distance. They started approaching me with their problems. One of them was a physically challenged undergraduate student who had had his entire schooling through the medium of Telugu. Initially, he spoke to me in Telugu and I spoke to him in English. I gave him simple stories in English with Indian cultural background and asked him to read them with the help of a bilingual dictionary. When he finished reading a story, he came to me and spoke about the story in a language which was an interesting mixture of both Telugu and English. And I spoke to him in English, taking him beyond the story. This continued. To cut a long story short, a time came when he was talking almost entirely in English with some degree of fluency. Time moved on. I had almost forgotten about the student. Then one day I saw him at a debating competition in English where I was one of the judges. He started the debate with absolute ease and went on like an accomplished debater. Good gracious, I said to myself, Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion is no fairy tale. Well, that was over 30 years ago. Since then, there have been so many such students who have inspired me and challenged me to work with disadvantaged learners, to do action research projects on their problems, to make presentations, run workshops, and teach. And teach with a belief, with a conviction that my teaching can make a difference to people's lives.